Welcome back to Blind Life with Karl. Steven's back with us again today. And today I really want to talk about hobbies, both things that we have tried that didn't work, things that have worked, things that worked for a while that, were fun, we enjoyed, but maybe they don't work for us anymore. And let's talk about some tech, what you use. I'll talk about what I use and technology within maybe those hobbies or interests that we have. You are telling stories about some hobbies that you've tried that
Yeah,
worked or didn't work or
yeah. Well, I mentioned in the last episode where baseball and sports and it's been a constant because I like to stay active, right? Like I still like to be in my body. And so it's been a constant process of trial and error to see like okay, like what works, what doesn't. I tried rock climbing, like that wasn't. I was like, this is like probably no good, on the side of a cliff, and you can't see things very well. So like that was one that I tried where I was like, no, 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 like this ain't happening, and in baseball and softball, and so like I loved the recreational sports, but it just doesn't seem to lend itself for the body I got, right?
yeah.
And so but at the same time, like I do love to go for runs, and I do love to do hiking. Hiking's a big one because it's like measured and paced, and I'm in nature, and it's again a lot of feel with my boots and all that stuff as well. um don't hike at night for
No.
obvious reasons,
Yeah.
So hiking's been a big one for me, and just staying physically active. And then I also, go to the gym and work out a lot. So those have been really important to me to like still feel like I have some agency
Hmm.
over my body while recognizing that there's just some things that like I'm just not going to be able to do or do well, and that's part of it, right? In a hobby, you want to see progress, and it's like,
Yeah.
if I could bang my head against the wall all
So
day.
I wanted to ask you this. So I was thinking about your baseball.
Yeah.
Are you right-handed or
I'm a
left-handed?
lefty too, which made it even worse.
So you're a lefty. So
Blind in my left eye. Yeah.
fine.
So I
Huh.
was swinging like this,
Yeah.
and so like I couldn't see the ball
So you're
coming.
swinging like a right. No, you're swinging like a left-handed batter.
Yeah, but like can't see the ball coming down the pipe, and so yeah, no. And then when I was in high school, I tried football as well. I got my clock rocked a couple times because I again didn't see the guy from the other team coming on this side, and I just got blindsided a
Yeah.
couple times. I remember very clearly. I'm just like lying on the ground, like maybe this isn't it, and but again, like it was all trying, right? Trying to figure it out, and I regret none of it, right? Because it just course corrected me more on my path, and so the things that haven't worked for me have largely been physical, right?
Yeah.
Physical. But then it's like that's where I've been tinkering, where I'm like, okay, I can't do that, but I still like to do stuff. Like I still like to work out, and interesting ones have been martial arts, actually. Where it's like I've done some Brazilian jiu-jitsu, or I've done some boxing,
Oh.
and like obviously, especially with sight, I'm not going to get into like any actual like boxing matches
Right.
because I'm not trying to lose both, whatever
Yeah.
vision I got.
Right.
But in terms of like staying in shape, and again just having a little bit more agency over my body, I do like boxing. Like I do like hitting the bag, and jujitsu as well. It's like it's a lot of feel, right? It's like you
Right.
don't really like sight is important, but it's also like just learning how to base the data you're getting from the other person purely on feel and like touch. So those were two interesting experiences as well. Again, I'm not doing any like mixed martial arts like live sparring where like someone can actually hurt each other, because
Right.
it's just not worth it for me to risk that the health that I have, right? And so it's just opportunity cost of that, right? But in terms of staying in shape, like boxing, and like I'll hit a bag, or any of that sort of stuff. It's like I don't need big bag in front of me. I can hit it, and so yeah, that's kind of my experiences. That's where I've tinkered the most, is on the physical side of like I want to stay in shape. How can I do that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Um, and I want to mention something. So both of us always wear glasses,
Yes.
and we're doing it to both to get some prescription for our eye that still works, but the biggest thing is to
Protect. Yep.
because we only have one that works,
Right.
so you need to protect it. My sunglasses are actually they're sports glasses, they're safety glasses.
Yeah.
So they're designed so like you can get hit in the face with full force with a basketball and they don't break.
Wow.
Because I live most of the time in my sunglasses. I only
Yeah.
wear these glasses if I'm indoors or it's nighttime.
Yeah.
But I still do the polycarbonate lenses so the lenses can't shatter.
Yeah.
Those costs add up, but it's worth it.
Peace of mind.
Peace of
Yeah.
mind, yeah.
Peace of mind.
So we both have that. And when you were talking about the things you've tried, so I was never allowed to do anything where I could get my head hit
Yeah.
growing up because they knew my retinas would detach.
Yeah.
And that's ultimately what cost me my right eye is the retina just detached
Right.
while I was taking a nap. So I mean,
Yeah, it could have happened in
could have happened, yeah.
in anything.
But so I never got to play football. I never got to do any of the contact sports.
Yeah, not missing much, I would say. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know why my parents. I think again, they were just trying to navigate. You
Right.
know, they didn't know anything either. You know what I mean? They were just trying to let me navigate it myself. But yeah, like they had. I look back up now, I'm like, why would you let me do that? You know, but I wanted to, so I guess they let me. You know.
So I stayed active when I was growing up as well. I enjoyed playing basketball, but without depth perception, I wasn't really ever good at shooting.
Right. Yeah.
Luckily
too.
we're both tall, so I mean,
Yeah,
that
yeah.
gave us some advantage.
Right.
I took up rollerblading back in this. I bought my first pair of rollerblades in 1987,
Yeah.
and I really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
I did have some accidents because I didn't see some pavement lifted.
Totally.
And I hit a stone, and just did the cartwheel.
Yeah.
So I mean, I took some spills, but it was really fun. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
I road biked as a kid.
Yeah, biking's been big for me too.
And then I switched to mountain biking.
Yeah.
And I really enjoyed mountain biking until I got to the point where it was like, I just can't anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. Trees come out of nowhere.
Trees come out of nowhere. And I got into the issue that as my eyesight got worse, the shadows. So I was trying to bomb down a lot of single track stuff. And, is it a shadow? Is it a tree root? Is it a drop off?
Yeah.
And so I just got to the point where when the fear is greater than the joy, you quit doing it.
That's a really good point. That's
what happened to me driving.
Yeah.
And it was one day. I was driving the day before, and my last day ever driving, everything changed. And I was like, this is absolutely terrifying.
Yeah.
I am afraid I might hurt somebody else.
Yeah. Yeah. Same with like the nighttime driving, like any enjoyment I ever got from driving is like that falls off a cliff. You know, I'm like, I don't want to do it. I'm not leaving the house. After at night. So that's a really good measure. I'll have to keep that in mind again. And it's like when it comes to like the mixed martial arts, it's like if someone's hitting me in the head back, I'm like okay, like what am I doing this for? Ego, or like what am I doing this for? But it's like to stay in shape. That's always been like the North Star of that hobby, because I think it's great, but I'm like, if someone's like, because some guys actually like go in there and try to hurt you because it's like, again, I don't know, ego, they're trying to work through some stuff, but good training partners aren't trying to hurt you, but like some guys are,
Right.
And so it's like, then it's like, okay, the enjoyment is like, I'm like, I'm good, like I don't need to like go against you, like have fun.
So, and I agree, like people, especially when your vision goes, a lot of people kind of they quit moving.
Yes.
Because it's scary sometimes. Like I hate going downstairs and whatnot, but going to a gym, and I don't really enjoy the free weight section because I've got things sticking out, the ends of the barbells. and
Yeah.
in my field of vision so small that I'm whacking my head or
Oh my God,
whatnot.
yeah. Especially down here, again, being tall, I cannot tell you how many times I've bashed my forehead
Yeah,
or off with door frames or my shoulder.
but I found some things at gyms that do work well for me.
Yeah.
Um, the Stairmaster, where it's basically the escalator that never ends.
Yes.
Like I can get on that thing and go, go, go. When I was training for the Appalachian Trail, I'd get on there. I would say it for 99 minutes, and I can't remember what level I was at, but my goal was to beat the machine because it could only go to 99 minutes, and level 35, I think it was the top level. I never could
Yeah.
do it, but I was up. I think I made it to like 29 or something, and
Wow.
just a fantastic workout. I would drink 2 liters of water. I'd just be drenched.
Yeah.
Treadmills, ellipticals. Like there's a lot of things. Yoga,
Yoga's
yoga,
great. I
yoga's
love
great.
yoga. Yep.
And it really
Yoga's
helps me
great.
because with one eye, your balance isn't the same.
Right.
And so much of yoga is about balance, and balance is necessary because we're going to trip, we're going to stumble. If
Yeah.
your balance is good, you can kind of catch yourself better.
Yeah. I think what I've learned is that like, yeah, keeping the body in shape mitigates all the other things, right?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like, if I get, yeah, bash my shoulder off a door frame or something because I didn't see it. It's like, okay, like it doesn't hurt it, it's like if the shoulder's strong or the arm is strong, it's like, okay, like it's not as much of an impact. Um yeah, I've really tried to keep up with all of that because I'm like, I'm not gonna let it, dictate my health, right?
Right.
The health of all the rest, the eyes, maybe, it's like I can't do anything about that. But like all the rest of me, it's like I have control over, and so kettlebells too, I've done a lot of because again,
Yeah.
the free weights I don't love, but
Yeah.
it's like if I'm have open space around me and I have that one kettlebell, it's like and I'm just operating on feel a lot of it,
Mm-hmm.
I can navigate that. And I like the kettlebells because it's cardio, mobility, and strength all at once. So I'm like, in my mind, it's super efficient. Like 20 minutes with a kettlebell and you can be drenched, right?
Yeah.
Like you were on the Stairmaster. And so I've really been really fallen in love with that aspect of it too, because it's just like, yeah, it's just control over the things I can be. And yeah, and my legs balance, right? Like you said, legs. And so it's like those are crucial as well, just keeping my legs loose and limber and the yoga and the stretching as well, especially as age comes into part of it, and we're not 18 anymore, and a
Right.
young kid who can, just bounce back. It's like, the mobility aspect of just staying loose and limber, and yoga is a huge part of that for me as well. I try to, even if I'm not doing yoga, I try to stretch in some way, shape, or form at least every day.
Super important. And
Very
balance,
important.
just even if you're going to be sitting here watching TV or listening to a book or something, just stand up,
Yeah.
quit sitting
Yeah.
and stand on one foot for a while, and then switch, stand on the other foot.
Yep.
And it'll do all those little micro muscles in our ankles that help us so that we don't twist our ankles.
Right.
Keep them
Right.
strong. It doesn't take going to a gym. Just literally get off of your chair, stand,
Yeah.
keep listening to your book, wash your dishes, whatever,
Yeah.
and cook your meal. But just practice standing on one foot. Now, this will surprise you
Mm.
because you mentioned it. So I spent 15 years rock climbing. And it really worked well for me because I would go climb granite cracks.
Yeah.
And so all I do is follow the crack.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I was feeling always, and it
Yeah.
actually worked. And the reason that came to an end was that you get to the top of everything, and the place where I was climbing, it's the second largest granite monolith on the North American continent. It's in Squamish, British Columbia.
Yeah.
So it's not as big as El Capitan, but it's second. It's almost as
Yeah.
big.
Yeah.
So you get all the way to the top, and then you have to hike down.
Yeah.
Well, hiking down means the ground's farther away from
Depth perception. Yeah. Yeah.
in
All
depth
that. Yeah.
perception. And
Yeah.
so it crossed over the line. I enjoyed the climbing. I got scared of the descents, and I was slowing down my partners, and they all said, we don't mind. But it got to a point where I just wasn't getting the joy because of how hard it was for me to get down.
Yeah.
But that actually worked for me for
Yeah.
15 years. And I have
Wow.
some of my best friends to this day are people I used to climb with.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's cool. That's cool though. Like that, it's like again, like just not staying sedentary. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
whatever it is, like whatever works for you. And yeah, unfortunate that like it crosses that threshold of like the fear, right? The rational fear,
Yeah.
right? It's like because it's like I don't want to be, afraid of things, but it's like if there's an actual risk of like dying or hurting myself, it's like that's like then I'm no, like
Yeah.
then I'm out, But it's like I understand that it's like to overcome fear, to like have a healthy relate.
Certainly.
Yeah, of course,
But
right?
there's a reasonableness. Like
Absolutely.
when I show videos of things that I used to walk across or walk down, and people are like, "You're nuts."
Yeah.
And like there was actually, if you fell, if you couldn't see where you were supposed to step, yes, you could die. And so it was a reasonable fear. It wasn't just a,
Yeah.
oh, I fall down and get boo boo. No, no, no.
Yeah, yeah. No, you got it's it's all of it, right? Taking all of it into consideration and making that choice for yourself, right? But it's like the most important thing is just still keeping act, and that's where I think people with low vision or legal blindness have to tinker the most, right? Is
Yep.
like whatever thing that gets you back into your body and you still feel safe and you still get enjoyment out of it. But it also is pushing you a little bit,
Yeah.
and with physical exertion or whatever it is, like whatever you can do to tinker with that while not risking your life is great, and I wholly endorse that because it's so good for you, like it's just good for your body but also just your brain. It's really that's where I found the most benefit out of it. It's just getting out of my head, and when I'm in my body more, my brain is more quiet is what I've noticed. So it's just like whatever I've done in
I,
that capacity is great.
I find that my mental health is better when my physical health is better.
Absolutely.
So that's
Yeah,
part of why I try to stay active.
absolutely.
So then I switched to some other hobbies along the way.
Mm.
I took up, played in a dart league, a cricket league,
Wow.
because the board doesn't move. So
Yeah.
as long as I could find where I lined up, then it was just muscle memory for me playing
Yeah.
darts.
Yeah.
That worked well. So fixed targets. So pool, much more difficult.
Yes.
Darts, way easier for me.
Yeah.
I took up disc golf, frisbee golf,
Yep.
and that got kicks into a piece for me where I couldn't do it alone because I couldn't find, I knew the distance, I knew which disc I needed to throw to make that distance or which way I needed it to curve or whatnot.
Mm.
And I would do my best.
Yeah.
I was never going to be world champion, but I did it with friends.
Yeah.
And so we would be out there and we'd walk, 2 hours to walk a course. So we're moving.
Yeah.
It's not aerobic, but we are physically moving, and I'm with friends. And we need that time with others to have new conversations, to joke, to laugh, to be supportive. And it was a way that I connected with others. And then I took up bowling.
Yeah.
And the reason I took up bowling is I had this list of questions, and I would ask people all the time. I would say, "Do you have any suggestions for me?" I said, "I want an activity I can do alone,
Mm-hmm.
but I can also do it with others.
Yeah.
I don't want the equipment to be super expensive, and I don't want it to take up a lot of room in my house. And I want to be able to do it year round."
Yeah.
And one day, this guy said to me, "Well, sounds like you need to go join a bowling league." And so I did, and met, once again, the bowling was great because it was a fixed target. Once I learned
Yeah.
from some people who were really good bowlers, they taught me how to do what I needed to do. But then I also met the people at league every week, and then sometimes we would meet up at the bowling alley on non-league nights, and we would bowl together, and we'd hang
Yeah.
out. We'd go out, grab a bite to eat after league. So it it gave me that social network, because a lot of legally blind people, their social world gets really small.
Yeah.
I even
Yeah.
joined a blind bowling league.
Really?
Yeah, it
Wow.
was a blast. Great.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah, it sounds like that's perfect. It kind of interesting too. I don't know. My family's like in the middle of nowhere, right? Like up in so everyone's got firearms, so it's kind of interesting where it's like I was a pretty good shot, which was because the
Yeah.
target was fixed. I don't, if people are moving around, I'm like that probably goes out the window. You know what I mean? But when the target was fixed, it was like people close their eye one eye anyways when
Yeah.
they're trying to shoot something. So like so it was an interesting thing where You know, like yeah, like that was like okay, like wow, like that was just like this random thing where you know, I don't ever want to use it, you know, outside of that context necessarily. But yeah, just an interesting thing where you know, or like bow and arrow, right? Like, you know, like that was
Yeah.
like another thing that I've done sometimes in the past where it's like super meditative to just like, all right, like I'm just here like trying to hit that target, you know, and again the target's fixed. Like it's not
Yep.
moving,
It's not moving.
you know.
So
Yeah.
yeah, once you figure it out, then you just keep doing the same thing over and over and slightly refine and
Right. Right. Yeah. Yeah. No, yeah. Yeah. I think and you said too, the community aspect of it
yeah.
is the most important part. And that's what music is for me too. You know, again, you know, talk about hobbies. Like that's where I get you know, you know, I have some of my best friends are other musicians that I've worked with and you know, it's collaborative. You know, I do a lot of it by myself,
Hmm.
right? But it's like, you know, I can also do it in community as well. And
Yeah.
that's been a huge one. And again, using the other senses, right? You know, and so music's just been that's been huge. Like it's a relationship with me and my instrument, and you know as well. But it's also like I can bring that in with other people, and so that's just been for my mental health and for you know I just think music's the greatest. You know, like I
It's
really,
pretty
it's
awesome.
pretty awesome, right? You know, and so you know, it just it brings people together. It's community. It's you know, I think it's one of the coolest things humanity has ever done. It's just creating, you know, creating music, right? And you know, it's you know, they say the pen is mightier than the sword, you know, and I'm like, you know, you know, I think I apply that to music. You know, the instrument's mightier than the weapon.
Yeah.
You know, it's whatever it is. I think it brings people together. I think it's, you know, putting forth all the good things that I want to see in the world, which is, you know, more love. You know, Beatles have been singing about love.
Hmm.
You know, bands have been singing about love since you know the '60s, right? You know, and so um, you know, yeah, I think that's I'm trying to keep that going, right? You know, keep that going in my own way.
What about for you? Is there any technology that you've used
Mm.
to do hobbies or music, or is there anything that, you know, magnifiers or I don't know, like what is there anything that you've had to adapt to be able to do a hobby that you've used?
Well, you know what's really interesting is when it comes to tech, when it comes to music, I've kind of gone back in time because like they have all the greatest softwares and stuff, right? And it's like I'm like, oh, like you know, could I look at a screen? It's like yes, of course, but I've found really that like I kind of go more analog because
Okay.
it's the more knobs and switches, right? It's more like
Right.
tactile, like kinesthetic, like it's like I'm touching it, I'm feeling it, and like for me and like my process like you know they you know they have all the apps and they have new apps and like all that stuff's great but for me like the knobs and switches are what is really serves me because it's just like I can feel it
Hmm.
I don't know it just works well with just how I operate in terms of music right you know what
Right.
I mean but if there's you know other technology you know, yeah, there's like, you know, apps or, you know, stuff I use where, you know, Libby, like auditory, you know, like, you know, just like anything auditory, right? Where like any of that stuff where, you know, and I love like reading, like when I can, you know, and when it, you know, at night it's harder, obviously, you know, to read anything. So, anything that just helps me auditorily, right? I don't even know if that's a word, but
Yeah, I believe
yeah,
so.
maybe,
I hope
maybe,
so.
yeah. Anything that's auditory, I really, really use, you know, with yeah, the Libby apps or language learning, right? Language
Yep.
learning is like another hobby of mine. So, you know, I have some great apps that like, you know, it's all conversation based, you know, it's like you're not really doing, you know, flashcards or whatever, which I'm
Hmm.
not saying aren't helpful, but just for me and the way like my brain works with navigating my body,
Yeah.
um, that's what I really, really kind of gravitate towards.
So I use Libby all the time.
Yep.
I use it on my tablet. I have magazines and then I can blow them up and I can read magazines. Like
Yeah.
I
Oh, my
love
font's
my
high. Or no,
yeah.
no, no. Whatever. The size of my font on
Yeah,
my
it's
reader
big.
is big. Yeah.
Um, but usually I use Libby probably almost every day.
Yep.
But I do audiobooks
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
they're free. You
Yeah.
know, like
Yeah.
because if you have to buy audiobooks, they're expensive.
Yeah.
And that's out of most people with disability their budget. You know, it's like there's food and then there's audiobooks, and
Right.
audiobooks should never win, but
Right.
through the local library, I mean, my gosh, it's incredible.
It's It's been huge. It's been, would I love a big hold library? Yeah. But,
Yeah.
it's just in terms of practicality. And, we travel a lot,
Yeah.
right? As well. It's like, this tiny little tablet over having, 3 or 4 books with me. It's like, I would love the physical book as well. But, just in terms of, but again, like I can't increase the font
Yeah.
on the font size on the book. So, yeah, it's Libby's been great because again, I like knowledge, right? Like I like reading, I like learning, and I don't want the condition to hinder any of that,
Yeah.
and so yeah, it's like kind of figuring out, okay, how can I do this, and podcasts have been great, right? Like I've learned a lot from different podcasts, and again, just hearing them as well, but yeah,
One
it's
one
been
of the
interesting.
big things for me in Libby, back when I was still reading the print books, I was doing it on Kindle,
Hmm.
was reversing the colors. So I had white letters on the black background. That
Yeah.
worked way better for me and my eyesight.
Yeah.
And like, what a blessing to be able to just, push a button and have it stay that
Yeah. To
way,
tinker and see what
to
works.
tinker. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then, blowing the font size up and all that. Podcast.
Hmm.
You have a podcast.
Yeah. Yeah, I do. Yeah. Yeah.
So we're going to get the link in the description, but tell us about your podcast. What's it about?
Yeah. 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 The podcast is called Oneself. I started it with my friend Adam, who I met here actually at the lake 2 years ago. And he's a really, really smart guy. He has a very interesting story where he was a firefighter for 10 years and then kind of like left it all, you know what I mean, like left it all behind, where he's just kind of had this awakening moment where he's just like, there's got to be more to this, which I wholeheartedly agree with. And so the crux of the podcast is just um talking about how largely men, but like I think it applies to everyone, but how we want to be the change we see in the world, what are the sorts of role models we would want when we were younger that we maybe didn't have, like what are those sorts of things, those characteristics. Adam and I felt like we've learned a lot of things the hard way, so it's like, again, maybe talking to younger generations where it's like, hey, like you can learn the hard way too, but if you want to bypass that, like here's some things that we've learned. And yeah, we talk about a lot. We talk about a lot, and well, an episode that was a favorite of mine was just the conversation of the Western world with and its relationship with death, and because we think that it's largely swept under the rug a lot, where he was a first responder, he saw a lot of death as a firefighter, but then he had instances where people are trying to resuscitate their 88-year-old grandmother, and it's like death is a natural process. Like,
Yeah.
would you really want me to crack her ribs and like try to bring her back?
Yeah.
Like it's like, and the Western world doesn't talk about it. Where he said he traveled to India, Mexico. You hear Dia de los Muertos.
Uh-huh.
Like, there's other beautiful relationships and cultures around the world with death, and they're much more open about it. Like they grieve in community. Where I think kind of in the Western world, grief is much more siloed, and it's like you're supposed to grieve alone. Like, yes, you have the funeral and you have the wake, and that's in community, but then, like that's it. Whereas like Dia de los Muertos, it's every year. Like they bring back, they remember, they grieve, in community. And so yeah, like that, topics like that, like just trying to get better, be better as humans. And the main crux of it is like just to try, right? I've made mistakes, we've all made mistakes. But just to, yeah, really just truly the goal is to elevate the consciousness of humanity. We think humanity still is in its infancy in terms of the collective consciousness,
Mm-hmm.
and the podcast being called Oneself, like I am you, you are me, right? You
Right.
could be me in a different lifetime. I could be you. Like have empathy for your fellow human beings, have compassion for that. I don't want to see other humans suffer. And for some reason, you say that to a lot of people, they're like, oh, you're crazy, like hippie or whatever. It's like, no, like that's not. I think that's perfectly rational. Where I think, but again,
Buddha, what do you think?
yeah, 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 exactly, right. And just again, just trying to. We have all the tools, right, to make
Right.
the earth a beautiful place. The earth provides, right, but we are still very tribal, very violent as a species, very antagonistic, and and greed, right? Greedy, like hoarding resources, hoarding money, hoarding wealth, and just trying to call attention to it, raise awareness, and just try to get better, right?
Well, so I mean, that's a really cool hobby that
Yeah.
you have, this podcast, and I'm hoping that some of our people will be interested and they'll check out your podcast, and they'll get to see yet another side of you. But what
Yeah.
a cool hobby, and really we could do podcasts and be completely blind.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. It's an again auditory medium,
Yeah.
and we have the visual element as well. Like we have the YouTube channel as well, but yeah, it's been great. It's been great, and yeah, it's just beautiful because I don't get to talk about those things that I was just talking about. Like I bring up death to somebody, and they're like, like
Yeah.
whoa, dude, like you know what I mean? I'm like, that's what I'm trying to call out. Like why? Like what's gonna happen to all of us, And so why not talk about it at least, right? Why are we sweeping it under the rug? So yeah, just to have that space to I consider myself a very introspective person. I'm thinking a lot internally, but it's like
Yeah.
to give me a space, just like this is, right?
Right.
All the things, all my experiences with my condition, it's like to have that space to talk about it. It's like it's a beautiful thing, it's a beautiful thing, and conversations are powerful. They really are. And vulnerability too, to be vulnerable about, the things that I'm going through might help that kid that's still navigating the world, and
Yeah.
when it comes to their mind or their body or spirit, mind, body, spirit, right? All of it.
Absolutely. And that's one of the things I really do hope, if somebody who's watching us, hearing this, knows somebody that's going through this experience, I hope that you will get this information to those people, because when I grew up, I didn't know a blind person, a legally blind person. I had no role models
None.
for this experience.
Yeah.
And and then I want to share a really quick story back to music. So within the last week or so, you were at a music show. I showed up. We bumped into each other right away.
Yeah.
How do two blind people meet? Oh, they run into each other.
Yeah.
But no, you were right by the door. So we met up. And then Chris
Yeah.
comes walking in 2 minutes later.
Yeah.
And then there was the lady that none of us knew
Yeah.
who had the eye patch. And I
Yeah.
went up and started speaking to her. And it turns out that she doesn't know anybody that's ever had an eye removed, but she's having her eye removed this week.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so, she and I connected and we talked a little about that and the experience. And it was like, how is this happening? We
I
do
know.
not live in a place that has a lot of people.
No. Impromptu support group. It was really beautiful. It was really beautiful in a way,
And music is what brought us all together.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because we just wanted to go listen to some good music. That was a great show.
It was a great show.
Yeah.
I know. I love them. They're
Yeah.
so awesome. They're so awesome. But no, it's but no, it's yeah, it's the best. It's the best. And that was so, I mean, like you said, I was siloed in that experience as a child growing up. And then like, you go, the only time it is talked about is when I'm going to the doctors, which was like my least favorite days of the year. So, having strangers poke and prod your eyeballs. But yeah, no, it was really beautiful to have other people to talk about it and talk about their experience and the similarities and the differences and again, but just like to have to voice those thoughts and those feelings where most of the time they're just locked away.
And Chris can see so well in the dark.
Yeah.
Like, I'm just like, how do you do that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just saw him on my way here, which is so funny.
But he probably didn't even know it was you.
Yeah.
And he just walked. Did he walk right past you?
Well, his wife or some.
yeah.
She was like, "Hey," I was like, "Hey," you know what I mean? So like they were together.
Good. Okay,
I don't know if it was.
My wife does that all the time. She's
Yeah.
like, so and so is coming toward us, and so she'll give me the heads up.
Yeah. Which I don't think she had enough time, but maybe
Right.
In passing, he was like, "Oh, like the kid we saw at the concert." But yeah, no, it was very really beautiful moment.
Well, I hope that we've given some people some ideas and things to think about, in getting back active physically, mentally, listening to books, reading books, and building community. Because if you're trying to do this and you've realized that your world's gotten really small, then I would really suggest finding something that you can do with other people, but maybe you can still do it alone. But something where you can start building that world back up, because when your world gets too small, most people tend to get depressed. And,
Yeah.
so hopefully we've given you some ideas about ways that you can make your life better and rebuild your community if you've gotten to the place where you've started to lose it. So I just want to say, hey, thanks for coming over again. And
Yeah, thanks for having
thank
me.
you for sharing. And I always love the insights and the laughter that we get to have when we talk. And gosh, I was like, when you said rock climbing, I'm like, he's not going to see this one coming.
No, that was oh man, that's beautiful. That's
Yeah.
beautiful that you made it work. It was just not, I don't know. It was just not for me.
Face climbing, I can't do it. I can't
Yeah.
figure out where to put my foot on the
Yeah.
little
Yeah.
nubbin.
Yeah.
No, that does not work for me. But the cracks worked.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So
Again, tinker, right? You just, you got to
yeah,
keep tinkering, see what works for you.
yeah. So, well, thank you. Hope you guys have a great day. Like, subscribe, do all the things that you need to do. Share it, and we'll see you next time.
And I walked on by to East St. Louis. I never had but one thing died. Thank you guys.